It's another episode of
Sensational. That was so not.
It was so off pitch.
That was really cringe. Not cringe, just like off pitch.
It was bad. It was cringe.
It was okay.
I agree.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Hi, I'm so glad you guys are here. Today, we're talking about long distance relationships and how to get through them. Because everybody tells you when you're talking about going into a long distance relationship, oh, wow, that must be so hard. Oh, I don't recommend that. Oh my God. Do you think you guys will stay together? Like just like all these toxic questions. And you're like, wow, the whole world is against me.
Well, it's true. The odds aren't necessarily in your favor. It's
Maybe
fucking
odds
tough.
Be ever in your favor. Yeah, no.
And the both of us have had this experience.
Yes. Yeah. You with New Zealand.
I had a long distance relationship with New Zealand.
Oh, not the country. I mean, you did for a little while as a kid. Like you daydreamed of, New Zealand.
That's true.
Sorry. We're talking about your, okay.
So I went to college in New Zealand and I had started dating my now husband, Noah. I started dating him in 2016. I left for college in 2017, early 2017. So we started dating like the spring of 2016. In less than a year, I'm gone for almost 9 months straight without seeing him. And that is year 1 of 3. And so we had been friends for a year before we started dating. But our romantic relationship, which was really my first relationship, brought out a lot of me that I had never seen before.
Yeah. As relationships will do.
As they will do. Correct. So I spent 3 years in New Zealand and I would come back every year at the end of the school year, which in New Zealand time is November.
Right. Yeah. Things were flipped. It's weird.
Yeah. November, December, January is their summer, whereas in the US it's our wintertime. So that's when I would go back. And the first year, I didn't go back at all during our mid-year break. So I was there the entirety from February 2017 to November 2017.
Oh, no. You were there from February to November?
Yes.
With no seeing you.
With no middle of the year.
Ouch.
Yeah. So the next couple years, the thing that was different was that I was gone for 3.5, 4 months at a time. And I saw him in the middle of the year in about July. So I still left in February. Saw him in like July, late June, July, went back and saw him again in November.
So I left for Hillsong College in Australia. I thought I was going to be there for like 3 years. I only ended up staying in Australia for a semester. And I came back and saw him. The semester started in July
2017.
I came back in November and I transferred to a university in South Carolina. That was a ways away still from where we lived. Like not the other side of the world in Australia, but it was still not a hop, skip, and jump. Like it was a day's trip. It was a 10-hour drive. So it was still not close. We wouldn't see each other often in South Carolina. The new semester started in January.
Spring. Yeah.
And I think I might have seen him for like 2 days in the spring, like around spring break, like in April.
I think you saw him too before you left because you came back during Christmas time.
Right.
He's
so,
back home for Christmas.
So you kind of see that, but you're also like trying to divide time. Like, oh, your family hasn't seen you either. So like.
You've been out of the country for months.
I've been out of the country for months. It was probably like we would see each other every 4 months.
Yeah.
Every 4 to 5 months. It depended. Yeah. That's not fun.
Now, I know some people have sustained even longer long-distance relationships.
Yeah.
And have gotten through it and had a better experience.
Yeah.
Or have had a worse experience. Like, it's going to vary.
Person to
couple to couple. Yeah, relationship to relationship. But, like, one of the things that I've heard a lot, and I think that you've heard a lot, is that people just don't even want to fuck with a long-distance relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Like, people just automatically shoot it down.
They write it off.
They don't even want to try it. And this is where it's interesting because we both started as in-person relationships.
Yes.
And then did the long distance thing. But like everybody, every adult you talk to was like, oh no, that's you,
Good luck.
good luck. You suck less. So,
But it did. Not saying it was easy either way. And that's kind of why we wanted to do this episode was we are sharing the things that we either did that helped or we wish we did more of.
Right.
To help sustain the long distance relationships we had, because both of us are still with the same people.
Yep.
They're high school sweethearts.
Yes.
And both of us still went through long distance relationships with both of our spouses, but we are different people now than we were at the start of those relationships.
Absolutely.
And that's why we wanted to do this.
Yeah.
Because if there's anybody else who's in the middle of it, who's about to do it, who is near the end of it, we want to hopefully be of some kind of value, be of some kind of insight here.
Yep.
Because it is tough, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So I guess one of the first things that I had to say about it is knowing what the end game is. And I think that's a big determining factor for people about why they will even write off a long distance relationship in the first place is because they're not a serious relationship.
Right, exactly.
So if this is a serious relationship and we love each other, we value each other, we want/need each other enough to commit to this relationship, then I feel like most people can consider doing a long distance relationship with the right person.
Right.
But you need someone who is just as committed.
Yep.
Is just as serious and who has the same desired end game. Whether that's to reunite permanently in someone's home city or whatever, or to do this for a certain amount of time. I think one of the most important parts about this is that both parties really need to know the why that you're doing this.
Why are you doing it?
Not just why you're doing the relationship, but why you're together and why your relationship is so important that you want to withstand a long-distance relationship. And also, why do you need to do the long-distance relationship in the first place? Is it something that you both can get on the same page on? Is there going to be resentment there? Is there going to be support? Like, that kind of shit has got to be worked out before the person leaves.
Yes, it does.
It really does. Yeah.
And surrounding yourself with people that like support your long distance relationship.
Yeah, if you're talking to people and trying to just discuss normal relationship vent sessions with people who are just automatically writing it off because it's long distance, that's not helpful.
No.
It's still a relationship. It's just farther apart.
Yeah. I would say for me, as a precursor to becoming long distance, you and your partner have to be on the same page with how you want to spend your time together leading up to becoming long distance. Like while you're together, while you can be. And the reason why I say this is because the Hubs and I, it was quite literally the night before I left to go to Australia. And we were, boyfriend, girlfriend at the time. And we were like trying to have the summer together because I left in July to stay till November.
Right. And you had just gotten out of a surgery too.
Yeah, I did. Recovering from foot surgery, not being able to walk. Oh my God.
It was a crazy
time. Crazy ass time. But it was quite literally the night before I leave for Australia. And we're sitting in the car together. It's a nice summer night. And my boyfriend broke down in the car and was like, I just thought we had more time. I just kept telling myself all summer that we had more time. And I'm here in this moment and you're leaving tomorrow. And I feel awful. Like I feel like I've missed out on so much time. And you had this whole breakdown in the car. And the whole summer long, I felt like, gosh, I wish I could be spending more time right now. Like, why is he doing this thing?
Wow.
Because I'm leaving in 2 months. And I was telling myself that all summer long. And here he is having this revelation because we weren't on the same page. And we didn't openly communicate, hey, babe, I am leaving on the other side of the world in a couple months. And I feel like,
I need more.
We might need more, even though we don't feel it today. That day is going to come.
It's going to matter in a few weeks.
Exactly. So, yeah.
That was point.
That was crazy.
A lot of this is going to boil down to being on the same page and communicating the needs with your partner. Like, that is a common fucking theme.
Yes.
in this episode, I think. One of the other things that I have on here, and you're going to see this a lot when you look up how to succeed in a long-distance relationship.
How to survive a long-distance relationship, yeah.
You're going to see this tip a lot, which is to plan a visit or have a date in mind that you can count down to.
Yeah.
I know that not everyone is in a position where they can do visits freely. Like, I totally understand. Like,
it's expensive.
It is, especially the farther you are, the more expensive it's going to be.
Yes. Wasn't a ticket to New Zealand like freaking $2,000?
Something like that.
That was before inflation. I don't even want to know how much it is right now. Oh my God.
I'm not even going to bother. It was a lot round trip. And so not everyone has the budget to do flights all the time.
No.
But can you plan something that would get you closer? Is there a halfway point you can do?
Yeah.
Is there a cheaper flight sale that happens for, your particular area? Like, only you can do that kind of research, but as much as you can, as realistic as you can, have a countdown date, because it made it possible.
Yeah, it's a good word.
To look forward to, okay, at least I know that on such and such a date, first year, in February, I'm thinking, okay, well, in November.
Right.
Now I didn't have a specific date in mind yet because I hadn't booked the tickets, but whatever month, maybe a week, narrow it down and know that you can count down to that.
And that's tough because depending on where you're at mentally, which I think we're going to talk more on in a sec, it's so easy to wish time away. Like, oh, I wish it was, let me just get through the day so that way I can, because you're on that mindset of, oh my God, this month I'm going to finally be with this person. And you just really...
You want to fast forward.
You want to fast forward and be there. And you've got to prioritize not only making it possible to get through a long-distance relationship without just fantasizing about that month and that day. Try to make it this time, this self-care solo time, wherever you are, to make it enjoyable, to make it memorable, at least for you. Any positive thing you can hold on to besides just wishing time away to get to that month. Surrounding yourself with good people, solid people that you really vibe with, that you can really trust.
Like, that ground you. Try
something new, like self-exploration, can keep your partner like cued in on it, like all that. Like, so that way it's not only possible, but time won't feel as slow when you're wishing it away. And maybe it'll even feel kind of fast as you keep yourself busy, but as you're keeping your life filled with stuff that is feeding you.
That's fulfilling.
And nurturing you. That's fulfilling. Exactly.
Not just that's taking away from you.
Right.
Because I think another reason why it was such a struggle for us was that in college it was demanding.
Right.
It wasn't entirely a fulfilling, feeling good experience.
No.
And that I totally believe bled into the relationships.
Yes. You don't want to wish time away.
I think that's really important to remember.
Because that's something I did. I just know that I would wish time away because I was, quite frankly, just really miserable. And I wasn't surrounded by people I felt really grounded with and like all that stuff. Like, I didn't do any of that, really.
And you wish that you had?
I wish that I had. And if you're not jiving with people at college, like, there's apps now where you can make friends like that are just designated to making friends in other areas and stuff. Like, just experimenting with all that.
And maybe also looking for people based on interests and likes that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there were clubs in college I was a part of. There weren't frats or sororities, but there were different clubs that I could have joined.
Yeah.
If I wanted to have been more connected to people who had a similar interest as me.
Right.
In terms of trying something new, like you said.
Right.
And trying to focus on connection that you can get where you are.
Right.
The other thing that I have to say, which kind of goes to counting down to a time that you can see each other again, is to also not put so much pressure on the time that you have with that person when you have that time with them.
When you finally get to see them.
When you finally get to see them, anticipate a range of emotions. Anticipate fucking tiredness. Like,
yeah,
there is so much anticipation. Let's not even think about fucking jet lag for a second, but just the anticipation and the excitement and the stress and the worry and the fantasizing and all that buildup right before you see them itself is exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
But if you take into account almost 20 hours or so of flying or layovers or a fucking delayed flight that took me into the next day, you're exhausted. There's a high probability that you're going to be exhausted when you see each other. Not saying you might get a second wind when you see each other, but for whatever time that you have together, it's not a bad idea to have some structured things you want to do, but enjoy just being together.
Yeah.
Enjoy the hugs, the hand holding, the kissing, the things that you can't achieve when apart. Try to just immerse yourself in that.
Because that is such a special moment, like touching their hand, like walking out of the airport.
Giving them a hug for the first time after you get off the plane. I don't mean to say just have low expectations, but like you might get back with each other and you might be like, they smell different than, last time I hugged them. Like, am I still attracted to them in real life? Or you can also start having these small but potentially catastrophic thoughts because this is the first time you're reuniting in person in however long. The last time that you were with them is the only thing you're holding on to. So don't expect it to also feel like the last time that you were together because it might not be. And that's okay.
So good. Yeah, because it's going to be different.
Shit changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just manage expectations. Try to maintain some realistic thinking about how it's going to be. And it could all be sunshine and rainbows. The weather could be shit.
It could.
And your plane might be delayed. So you might have one day less with the person that you were planning to spend time with. Like, so many things can go wrong. So many things can go right. Just manage expectations when you're together and right before you're together.
Right. One of the biggest things that you and I have been talking about regarding making this easier, the whole thing easier, is making sure you're at a solid place with your self-esteem. In being apart with your partner. How much do you honestly lean on them for self-esteem? And it's like, who are you without them? How do you live your day without them literally right next to you? You gotta be okay with you. You gotta be on your own team. And I know I personally went through that. My boyfriend went to the high school that we went to, and I was shy, and everybody knew everybody since they were kids and stuff. And so I think I kind of, as an insecure introvert, I didn't put myself out there a lot. And it's just easier to just have somebody who does that for you, kind of. And without them, it's like, okay, I'm in a totally new place with totally new people. Again, I think there's some general social anxiety that I'm kind of talking about here, but just my social anxiety with other people, meeting new people, talking to new people, other musicians, because I am a musician. It was difficult because I was so in my head and not really present, and I was beating myself up, and it was just not a good combination. So you got to be comfortable with yourself, and it's okay to not be all, like you said, rainbows and butterflies about anything regarding this process, but you got to not hate yourself.
Because how can you love somebody if you can't love yourself?
Yeah.
It comes back to that.
It does come back to that.
What I had to say was basically that, in the sense of I wish that I felt more secure in myself and our relationship before the distance happened. Because we were how we were before the distance. The distance didn't make it something it wasn't. It just amplified
what you were.
Wow. So I wish that I had less anxiety.
Yeah.
I mean, I joke with my husband now that I'm like, I don't have abandonment issues. And I say this like as I'm like hugging him before he goes to the bathroom. And like I'm just like clinging onto him like, I don't have abandonment issues. Also don't go. It's just a funny thing. But I truly was so scared of being abandoned and not being the person to call that shot. So I had a habit of stonewalling, of like not responding to things when things were rocky, right? Because it's going to be on my own terms that, we're going to talk. I had a really bad habit of catastrophizing everything.
Same.
And there are also moments where my partner is going through his own depression and whatnot, and I'm going through my own anxiety and whatnot, and my own depression and stuff. And that takes such a toll on any relationship. But long distance, that shit just
amplifies everything.
It amplifies everything. So that also means the good can be amplified, right? Like if you have shared interests or if you guys like the same show, Noah and I liked, we still watch it sometimes to this day, but it's called Top Fives on YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's just like these quick little videos of true crime or haunted stuff. And we would try to do those over like a shared video software. So we would use Rabbit was one that was around. There's different ones now. But sharing like movies or shows or books or games.
Yeah, playing games together.
If there are shared interests that you have, that can also be amplified because you're depending on that as a means of relating to your partner in a way that you can't do that far away. Like it's the only thing that you share.
Right.
And can both have access to. So another thing we would do is if there were some movies we were really excited to see, we would watch them individually in theaters, but then we wouldn't talk about what we saw until we both saw it.
That's so cool.
And then we'd talk about the experience that we had. And like, for example, there was one time in a theater when I saw Endgame and like someone had a seizure in the theater, right? It was a big theater. And like, I told him when it stopped, like during the movie, and like he could relate to the scene I was talking about. And so it's like, he wasn't there for that, but we both saw this film. We both saw it in a theater. There is a shared experience to kind of base off the imagination. And so it becomes easier to also talk about things that you might have experienced by yourself. But if they also saw the same movie or they read the same book, there's a little piece of you with them in that. And you can hold on to that and you can talk about that and something new to bring into your conversations. There's a whole lot of good in trying to figure out what you both like and doing it together, even from afar, whatever that is.
Yeah.
But all that to say, everything is amplified.
Yes.
In a long distance.
Yeah.
So figure some of your shit out. Figure some of your mental health stuff. Make sure that your partner
is also okay.
That's another thing that I kind of regret is neither one of us were in our prime and we were relying too much on another broken person to get us through it instead of each individually getting help as we should have. So don't screw yourself over. Don't screw the relationship over by not getting help when you need it, because that can be a make it or break it thing. And I'm not saying that you can't make it through it if you have terrible anxiety like I had. Like if you have trust issues, if you have abandonment issues. But if you can get some of that under rein, my God, will it be just a bit easier for you, man.
It will.
So consider that going into this, because you could really help yourself set you up for success if you address some of that stuff early on and don't wait until a year and a half later and you're like, why am I so insecure about him not texting me back after, this amount of time when I was never that way before? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or I never thought I was that way before. But that part of me was still there. It just got so much more amplified because you can't see them. You can't touch them. You can't live with them.
And that's something interesting that you kind of talked about too, was this idea of like when you get to talk to them, like sharing, the intimacies of like, what happened in the movie theater, the shame experience. But something else that I would kind of put pressure on myself with, it's like when you finally get them on the phone, you're like, oh my God, this is the moment we get to talk about. Oh my God, there's a dead beat of silence. We're silent for a second. Oh my God, like I want to make sure that they still love me and I'm still as exciting and I'm still as like just so much unnecessary pressure. It's okay to also just be on the phone.
And have a boring time on the phone.
Yeah, like that's also okay. And I think when you're in a long distance relationship, you don't forgive yourself as easily for moments like that for some reason.
Well, you have less of that time.
And I think that's the thing. You have less of that time and you can kind of feel guilty for that. But that's also like just part of your love story. It's okay to just be chill. I mean, they call it Netflix and chill for a reason, okay? I mean, that isn't necessarily bad, but it's easy to put pressure on yourself to make sure the conversation's like the best thing ever. And it's like, if you had a shitty day at school, it's just okay to be together and to share the intimacies about your day, the good and the bad. To share about a really annoying professor, or to just share about how you really liked the way the weather felt and like this new outfit you were in, or just anything small is important, because intimacy is important. And knowing the deepest parts of your being, like that's all about being in a relationship. And that doesn't stop when you go long distance. just because they're no longer over your shoulder experiencing all these things with you, it's like you gotta cue them in on that. You gotta include them in on that, and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of it. And it's important.
You have to make more of an effort to clue them in.
Right.
Because they're not just happening to be there.
Right. One of the best things that the hubs did for me when we became long distance, again, like we there's been so, we had gotten married and he was going to continue his schooling online so we could be together. And I was like, oh, yay, no more long distance. Well, boy, was I wrong. Spoke too soon because, God dang it, the job that he wanted in the area that we wanted to relocate in after I was graduated from college. So like where we wanted to be.
Endgame,
right? The job he wanted was open. And believe me, where we wanted to relocate is really small and like opportunities were scarce. And so he needed to jump on the job, but then he was going to be away doing the job and training for the job and like all this stuff. And so I was alone, despite being married, doing my last year of college while he's away at where we're going to end up living together after college. But I think I unhealthily held on to marriage. Like, oh yeah, this will never happen to me ever again.
Ugh.
And it happened again. So you gotta love yourself.
Oh wait, you didn't say what he did though.
Oh yeah, sorry. Oh my God. I knew I might have ADHD.
What did he do for you?
So what he did for me when he left for the job and like we couldn't see each other anymore, he sent me a video every morning training for the job. He would send me a video every morning telling him to
reminding himself.
It's a reminder. He would send me a video every morning telling me all the details he was going to do at his training and like getting ready for the job and who he was with and what people he didn't like. And like every morning he would send me a little video because we would wake up at different times and like all this stuff and just saying he was thinking about me. And he would also encourage me and be like, I hope you have like a really awesome day today and blah, 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 blah. And that really made it hella easier. That was probably the most healthiest thing we did. And it wasn't in Australia, but it was still,
later on.
You live and learn, but it was good.
Also, to your point of your hub sharing people he didn't like, do you remember when we saw Taylor Tomlinson live? She's a comedian we love, and we won't stop talking about her.
No.
But her opener is Dustin Nickerson.
Yes.
And he shares this tidbit
He does.
about when keeping like a marriage together, to have go-to people that you both hate and just want to gossip about. There have been people that both Noah and I have just been fed up with.
Yes.
And we kind of go into our own little corner and just shit talk.
Yeah.
And if there's a way to have that kind of common ground, even apart, or if you know who they hate and who they love at work, or you know what the situation is, again, it really is the small things that make you feel connected to them at the end of the day.
Yeah. Something said in a group chat that you both were just like, what
the fuck? Yeah.
Did you see? What was that about? Like, it's just relationship saver.
Wait, relationship what?
Saver.
Saver?
Yeah. Like,
oh, I thought you meant.
What you mean?
I thought you meant like savor it, like SAVOR.
Oh, no. Like, no.
Relationship saver. Agreed. Another part that's so important to this is how you communicate. And it gets weirder if you don't have the same kind of phones or something. Cause then,
like iPhone, Android?
Right. Like you have to get Facebook Messenger might work for somebody. WhatsApp might work for somebody else. We had used Between for a while. And the cool thing about that, and if you can find similar messaging apps like that, is that it is just for two people to talk to each other.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about sending a sexy pic to the wrong person. Right. Or like you don't have to accidentally
send it to your dad.
Yeah, exactly. It's an app that you can designate just for the two of you.
Yeah.
And I mean, that can be really cool. So we used Between for, I think, years. And it might be a little bit dated in terms of its looks, but it still is functional, I'm pretty sure. So Between was an app that we used.
And that had physical stuff in it. Like one of my favorite little things with that app is you could put your thumb on the screen Oh, I'm gonna get teary-eyed just thinking about
It's
this
not
moment.
it's not that app. That's a different app.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah, these apps,
They come and go.
They come and go. There's still some good ones.
But tell them about that because that was really cool. Like that was a
Yeah.
really neat feature.
It was, you would put your thumb on the phone. Oh my God. And
The flashbacks.
it would vibrate for your partner. Like how many times or like that you were putting your thumb on the phone. And then you would see your partner's thumbprint. And so we would like touch thumbprints.
And then you could move on the
And you
little
could
pad.
move it. Yeah. And it
And
would buzz.
every time you guys touched each other. Like
It would,
also-
yeah, it would buzz. Oh, was that it? Every time you
Yes.
touched each other, it would buzz. It was
Yes.
so cute. It was so wholesome. And you could like draw weird stuff, you know, pretend like you're just with your thumbs
to be chasing each other.
chasing
and
each
stuff.
other. It's just so wholesome. And like you would like just, oh my God, it was perfect.
That was a really cool, because that was a free app.
Because that was free.
And I mean, it's no longer existing, but if another relationship app like did that, oh my God.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
I'm sure there's gotta be.
I looked, man. It was hard to. That's the thing. And maybe this is an encouragement to developers and stuff out there. Like, there could be a real market for high quality relationship apps that are, again, like a one-on-one messaging system.
Yeah.
Consider maybe making some really cool interactive features for people, because I love that feature when we had access to that app, and then we had to move, I think, to between because that app was no longer going to be supported and be active. So maybe some other people can invent a miracle relationship app. You know?
And anything like that, like aside from apps, any physical thing like a shirt, a sweatshirt, something that smells like them, a toy. There's lots of cool stuff now. There's like bracelets that you can be in sync and like touch it and kind of does the same thing. It's just some of the stuff, it costs money, but to me, it would be well worth it. And something that's physically tangible. Okay, I'm going to go on something here. When you're in a long distance relationship, it's important to know your partner's love languages, which is a whole thing, but how to meet that long distance. And with physical touch, because you can't be there and touch the person, having physical stuff helps. And one of those things that helped me and that helped the hubs was open when letters. And you got me onto that. You created some for me when you went long distance to New Zealand.
Yeah.
Which is really sweet. It's basically open when you're really missing me, or like open when you've had a really crappy day. Or it's just and
when
then
you've achieved something good. There's like positive ones too, because you want to be able to celebrate with your partner.
Right.
So the highs and lows.
Yeah, they're great. There's so many ideas on Pinterest to like how to make them and all this stuff, but it's easy. And when you put the time into it, it's so worth it.
It's so thoughtful. I would also say it, I mean, for me, it's very much a words of affirmation thing.
It's like 2 in 1.
Yeah, I guess so. One of the things that I actually really liked that I did for Noah was there was someplace online, I'll have to see if I can find where it was, but where you could make custom blankets.
Yes, there's several companies that do that now, like Shutterfly.
Yeah, well,
sure, you can do it through Amazon now too.
I got a huge blanket made with like different photos of us from different times, and also like there was this really cool thing where I could put my handwriting on it too, I think. So I believe like I scanned in like my handwriting for like part of it too. It's a comfy blanket, but like that was, to me, it was like, this is something I can do to physically touch him, right? Like here's a blanket, and again, I was leaving in fucking February. It was chilly. I think this was like a Christmas gift or something. But you have to be creative.
Yeah.
To reach your partner where they're at physically. So if there are local restaurants near them that they absolutely love, and you can, you know, gift a DoorDash or whatever to them, or flowers, like you said earlier when we were talking.
Oh, yeah. Like on your birthday.
Yeah, on special occasions, and also like little small care packages too, if possible. One of the sweetest things that Noah did for me was send me, I have always been a big sweet tea person. And
no, really?
And so Noah sent me like a shit ton of tea bags one time.
Tea bags.
Tea bags. And he sent me a kettle.
Oh.
But my anxiety, because it was a US plug, I was worried about the transfer between like, because I had to use an adapter for every New Zealand thing because they have a different kind of outlet over there. So I was worried about that, but I was paranoid that like my smoke alarm would go off because of having it in my room. I was just paranoid. I was totally paranoid, but I did use the tea. There was like a shared kitchen space for most of these dorms. So I would go over there and make my tea with the shared kettle. So it's small and Amazon has some international shipping.
Yeah.
So maybe take advantage where you can budget it. Stuff like that can be really awesome. It reminds them that you're thinking of them, that you know what they like, you know what they need or can't get in their country like normally.
Intimacy.
Yeah. Small things like that can really mean so much.
When you finally do get to see each other, something that I didn't do was, like, we've always been really close as a family. Like, Jac's my sister. She's my best friend. And, like, we were really close with both of our parents at the time. Not so much now. But all of our other siblings, we have a big family.
Yeah, it's a whole story.
It's a whole thing. I missed all of them, and I miss the beau. And reunions at the airport, I wish I did them separately because it's just weird. Because you want to have such... It's frustrating looking back. It's like you want to have such an intimate moment with your partner, but like you're like, oh, but I don't want my dad to feel like I have a favorite, but I want to marry this guy, but I feel like they're judging me. I don't want to be like too openly intimate. We're at an airport. I want to make sure my family feels loved too. Like, there's a lot of pressure in the moment. It's too much pressure. I think it's way better, even if it's like having just your spouse or like your partner meet you at the gate or wherever you're at.
Bus stop, wherever.
Bus stop. Or give them that hug. Have that moment, because you need that moment where it just feels like you two and not your family. It just needs to be you two and not your family, like, with it. It's just you two and not your mom and your dad and your siblings and all the stuff. You need that moment just by yourselves and then regrouping with your family later. And that in itself, it might make your family feel funny because they also really miss you. And they're like, oh, but we're our mom and dad, or we're helping pay for your college. And that can be weird, but I wish I made that decision that could have created some point of conflict and handled that, to have that separation between the two. Just less pressure.
Yeah. Your mind isn't divided between two types of relationships.
Yeah.
Like, you can just focus on the one. Yeah. I think it probably simplifies the reunion processes a little bit. Now, I don't know how many people will think this is weird, relate to this. I don't know. I'm not totally sure what the consensus is.
Pretty open-minded age, hopefully. That
we'll see. Like, I'm curious to know what people think about this. But one of the things, besides obviously doing like sexy stuff as much as you can on FaceTime or audio calls, and letters, making spicy audio messages, whatever you guys like to do that way. I mean, low key, if you guys are comfortable and you guys are like, if you guys trust each other enough to keep this stuff secure, some relationship amateur porn for each other can be really, really sweet.
Like, just you guys, or do you mean?
No, I mean, making something for your partner.
Oh yeah,
you know, not always, because sometimes you can't have a scheduled sex session or something on FaceTime.
That's a good one.
But like making your own. For some people, it's video stuff. For some people, it's audio stuff. Like, whatever you can, or both. Like, consider that, okay? That's not actually the weird part. The weird part I'm a little scared or vulnerable to share is something that Noah and I would do is on occasion, especially when neither one of us had to get up early, we would put a phone up. I would put a phone up on my end. He'd put a phone up on his. And say he was going to bed first. The phone would just stay on while he's sleeping.
Yeah, that's not weird. I would totally do that.
We did it. So sometimes he would be sleeping and then I'd go to sleep while he was still sleeping. And then, like, you know, the next morning when I wake up, if the phone call didn't disconnect, you know, he'd be up and around and like the phone would be moving and like he would be taking me around the house or whatever as he's doing what he's doing. I would, oftentimes when he would fall asleep, I'd be working on an assignment or working on client projects. Like, he would just be sitting on the tripod on my phone at the desk, just there. So
I love that.
It was really
That's
sweet.
Quality time. That's what that is. No, it is, because like you don't, with quality time, it doesn't have to be. Like,
you don't have to be conscious.
No, but there's like a comfort. Like we would do that. Like I would do it more with, if I'm having a hard time going asleep, like, can you stay with me until I fall asleep, kind of thing, on the phone.
Yeah. It does help with not feeling alone. I think it also just gives you a little bit of a window to moments you wouldn't normally be able to have long distance.
Right.
Especially if there's time zone differences. You're normally not even going to bed at the same time.
No, not at all.
So to be able to say goodnight to them, right? And like, you know, you see them go to sleep. My man is so cute when he's sleeping, and it's peaceful for me to see him sleep. So you do you, but that is an idea. Just
I think
to
it's
have,
great.
Yeah, it's cute, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. When you're in a long distance relationship, and if your self-esteem is solid, mine was also still, you know, crap. But knowing what triggers you, like in missing your partner, like if it's watching The Holiday around Christmas time and like you're not with your partner, like don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like don't just sit in that like wallowing self-pity. Like just don't watch the movie. Or like, I don't know, if you have that one friend that talks about how she just can't wait to see her boyfriend that night because they're gonna go out to dinner and like have the greatest time of their lives, and you're like, oh, dang, I wish I could. Like, it's tough. So just understand what triggers you. And don't feel like a bad friend for doing that, because you're trying to not feel mad at your friend by setting that, I don't know, distancing yourself from them a little bit when you just know it's not a good time. Because it just makes you miss them. It's not that it's wrong that they're talking about their partner, but it's just being sensitive to the situation. And, you know, some people, you know, you might not give a care. And that's great, too. I am more empathic and sensitive in nature and stuff like that, especially when they did know that it was just...
You don't want to rub that shit in someone else's face.
Right. And that's what it kind of feels like. Right. So don't do that.
Don't do that to other people who are in it, and don't surround yourself with people who are doing that to you.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. That checks out. And I think one of the last pieces of advice or suggestions that I had was kind of what I hinted on earlier, to just be creative with ways you can keep things alive, to reminisce. Something I like to do a lot was to take different photos and videos and put them in slideshows.
Yes, you were so good at that too.
Another thing I like to do was, I had a journal. It's kind of similar to an open when letter situation, but I had a journal that was just for Noah. So like it would be different days that I would write, and I'd be talking about stuff that happened, that sometimes it was stuff he already knew.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might have been stuff that I was planning for him and he didn't know about yet, or I was sharing details about. So like think of things that are outside the box, and it might be a little bit of work, but that little bit of work can go a long way to just touch your partner. I remember seeing, I never did this, but stuff that inspires ideas. There was like this little book online that you can custom make, where you can pick the little characters that represent you and your boyfriend, or you and your girlfriend, and you can customize a little, like almost like a little comic of like stick figures that look like you. It was really cute. Stuff like that. Like, who's gonna get that in the mail? You know, maybe your partner. You know what I mean? Because you give a shit. So like, yeah, like
it's your good partner.
Yeah, like there are things that exist. You just gotta do a little research to find them. But again, that stuff can be so meaningful. So consider that. Consider thinking a little bit more outside the box, because again, you can't just welcome them home with a hug. So what's the equivalent? You know what I mean?
Right. That's really good. I love that. Something that I feel like is a little uncommon to talk about when it comes to long distance relationships is that I was the one who chose to go far. Like, you know, go to Australia or go to South Carolina, 10 hours away. I chose to go far. And I felt like I struggled with feeling guilty for that. And so in conversations when I was feeling just sad on life, or just wanted to share some intimacies without my day that like were just more of
You really need to redo that. I'm not sure what you said. It works more of Debbie Downers.
If I wanted to share intimacies about my day that was just more on the Debbie Downer side, like just that was just sad, I would be like, oh, well, I'm the one who chose this, so like I just gotta suck it up and deal with it. And I can't complain about this because this is what I chose. And that's so cruel.
There's gonna be downsides to anything that's chosen.
Anything that you
do.
choose.
Yeah.
And it's okay to express the pain that you go through being long distance, even if you chose to go abroad for a semester. Like, it's okay.
Or in the military or something.
Or in the
like
military, yeah. You know, and I would feel guilty for that.
Yeah.
And I don't think that was fair to me. Just made shit harder.
Because then again, it's another connecting point, another vulnerability point and discussion that you could be having.
Yeah.
That you can't have.
Right.
Because you're stopping yourself before you let yourself be able to talk about it. So, before we wrap up, one idea that we had was to ask our spouses if either one of them had suggestions that they would like to share from their own experience, from their own perspective. So, Leah, would you like to share what your hubs had to say?
He had a little thoughtful nugget, and it's interesting because it's something that I've already said, so it's cool that he felt the same way. He said, he sent me a picture of him and the dog as I'm trying to look at the text he sent me. Okay, sorry, I got distracted. Okay. Make an intentional effort to share even small details from days that you aren't together. That was his little nugget. And like, he did that really well with me. He was really good about sharing the small details. It was me who I felt I didn't do it.
And that's something you would go and improve if you could?
Yeah. Even if he didn't feel like there was a lack thereof, I know that I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I should have talked about it just for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
All right. So my man's had a few things to say, as he usually does. First thing he said was send sweet messages and phone sex.
Yay!
Of course.
Hooray!
He also said, make sure your partner is genuinely all right, especially if isolation is going to be a possibility. And that was the case for me. Again, being an introvert, he is a little bit more extroverted than me. I think both of us still felt kind of isolated in our worlds, but trying to really tune into your partner, like if there's some red flags that you're seeing regarding mental health or whatever. Again, I said earlier that I wish we didn't depend so much on each other during that time, and I still stand by that. But that would have been a good time to maybe help each other.
Unite fronts.
I was going to say, I think I would have been way more keen to help him get therapy and him help me get therapy than do it for our own selves at that point.
Yeah.
So again, like there are ways to help somebody, even from afar, and to kind of virtually hold their hand through something like that.
Yeah, I like that.
So really tune into your partner in terms of knowing if they're okay or not, because that's important. He also said honesty is important, but even more imperative when it comes to long distance.
Mm-hmm. Like you kind of said, everything is
amplified. He says the consequences are amplified more with long distance. You already struggle with distrust, and that you don't need any more signs of dishonesty or lack of openness than what's already there. Yeah. He says it doesn't mean that you have to be cynical about the relationship just because you're being honest. So like if you're saying there's a problem or that there's a need, you don't have to be like, oh, this isn't going to work out because there's no way that, which is probably good for any relationship in general, not just long distances, but
yeah,
don't be too cynical. Like have a desire to work it out, if you still want to. And he actually uses an example from the movie Whiplash as an example of what he's talking about. Quick spoiler alert, guys, if you haven't seen the movie. But the main character is dating a girl. It's going pretty well. And then kind of at random, he breaks up with her because he says that she would be holding him back, essentially, from his pursuit of professional drumming. Like
wow.
Right. Instead of saying, look, this is really important to me. How can we make this work while I'm pursuing this? It's just not going to work.
Wow. Black and white.
I'm not going to try. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was essentially that. Which, look, if you know that, if you really know that about yourself, it's one thing. But if you're too scared to try, if you're just writing it off because it's long distance, if you're writing it off because it's a little uncomfy, maybe consider not. Like, maybe consider doing the hard stuff because it really could be something amazing after that. You know what I mean? Or in it even. So he was saying, don't be overly cynical. Like, have a mindset that's keen to work on stuff. And then another thing he said along that line was, if one or both parties can't deal with the long distance, brainstorm a way to work it out or call it off, because it's better to do either of those than to be resentful. So it's better to try to work it out, try to brainstorm a way to work it out, or just to call it off because you don't want a relationship that is just brewing resentment.
Yeah.
You know, clearly that's just the makings of a toxic one. He also said, kind of like what you said earlier, the other thing he was saying was to know the needs. So you were talking earlier about knowing love languages.
Yeah.
He was saying that you have to not be afraid of confrontation when it comes to what you're needing.
Wow.
So if it is more sexual stuff, if you feel like that's lacking, consider getting some remote vibrating toys or whatever it is. Like, there are tools, there are resources, but you also have to communicate the fact that there are needs.
I just thought of using the avocado app in a really funny way.
Vibrator. That shit wouldn't have done anything.
Oh my gosh. Because it's their, technically their, oh my God.
Just tapping it to make you feel good.
Oh,
that's funny.
Dang, okay.
Yeah, but you can't be afraid of confrontation.
No.
You can't be afraid to ask and make it clear the things that you're needing. So keep that in mind. And then the last piece of advice he had was, and rob banks together. A couple that robs banks together stays together.
That negative bonding energy,
hey, Bonnie and Clyde, this bitch, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like the biggest recap, if you're considering a long distance relationship, is that you really got to make sure your mental health is okay. Like, that's like the real big consistent thing, I think, because so much is intertwined with anxiety or trust, and it's like you got to make sure that you're okay.
That, and also the nature of the relationship.
Yeah.
From the standpoint that even if you have your mental health in check, but the person isn't on the same page,
right,
it's not going to work.
Not going to work.
Or it's going to work until it doesn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's going to be that resentment and stuff. So even before starting, be clear on that foundation, because even when shit was bad for me, for my hubs, like, we loved each other so much, and we were still waiting to see each other before we did anything drastic, I think. Because it's like, again, if you're in an unhealthy environment, if you can change the environment, that can maybe help some healing happen. So I really do believe a lot of the success depends on the couple, depends on how willing they are to make something work.
Yeah, and that even if stuff is okay, even if your mental health is like okay and all this stuff, different people are going to handle this differently. It's okay if you handle it worse than somebody else. Like, that doesn't make you weaker, that you're having a harder time. Like, don't
beat yourself up about it.
Don't do unnecessary beating yourself up. It's just so unnecessary. And you got to be on your own team throughout the whole thing.
Please keep us in the loop with your own LDRs, as they call them.
Oh, LDR?
LDR.
That sounds like therapy.
EMDR.
EMDR,
it's LDR.
Or isn't that a name of a band?
FDR was the president.
No,
Franklin
but what
D.
about
Roosevelt.
the thing with Sia and like the collab?
That's LSD.
Oh.
Oh my God.
I just know
that is an example of pure Leah energy right there.
I'm sorry.
What was that thing? That really wholesome LSD?
It was a good song. Okay.
They make really good music. Now they should continue. I don't know why I haven't heard a song from them in since 2018.
What happened?
I don't know. Let's get on their asses. But seriously, please tell us about your long distance relationship.
Yeah. Are you in one? Are you gonna be in one?
Have you been in one before? Are you out of it? Do you love it?
Has this helped you? If you love it, I'd be a little concerned just because maybe it's the wrong fit. Maybe. If you love your time away.
You're not compatible enough.
If you daydream about it, it's probably bad. Probably not the right mix.
Maybe you just need to start with having your own room or give me some space. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I just dream that we're across the world from each other.
And I
don't find our way back.
Oh my God. I don't miss you.
Oh, God. Yeah.
But we're rooting for you guys if you're, about to go on this journey or If there's anything else any other advice that you guys have, or you were like, oh, I'm surprised they left this out. I'm curious to know if you guys have any other good tidbits.
Oh my God. We'd love to know them.
Yeah.
Like, we'll share them on our Instagram or something. Like,
yeah.
Because this is I remember Googling shit like back in the day and just coming up with nothing.
The same 3 articles. You're like, okay.
The same 3 apps, the same 3 articles. There really wasn't much that existed. And I still think there's some lacking. But, hey, let's have the conversation. Let's create a repository for other people. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So we can help others. Yeah.
We want to let you guys know that we love you.
And we are rooting for you.
And you matter. And good luck with your long-distance relationships. And have a great week.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for joining us.